A core technique that you need to use when you want to date multiple women all at the same time with no lying, cheating, or drama long term to establish those new women into your life as girl number 2 or 3 or 4, even in some cases girl number 1 if you're starting from 0, is that you do not want to verbalize or define the relationship. Men today, in the collapsing era in which we live, where beta male is now the norm and testosterone rates have plummeted, feminine men today, which is most men, are really bad at this. So the way it used to work back 30, 40 plus years ago, when I was in high school back in the 80s or the 70s or 60s or even early 90s, what would usually happen when a man and woman started dating is that the man would play it cool and the woman would be the one saying, well, so like, are we gonna like date and are you gonna be my boyfriend? And she would pressure him into a relationship. Today, no, it is completely swapped. And now the vast, and I mean vast, 90% of the time, it's the guy who sits there one day after they've had sex maybe once or twice, sometimes not even that, and they're out on a date and he like looks at his arm and goes, I think we should like not see other people because I really like you. And yeah, no, you just fucked it all up and now you're in a de facto monogamous relationship or an actual monogamous relationship when you don't even know what you're dealing with, and you've just set the course for nuclear explosions in your life. They're gonna happen several weeks or several months or worst case, several years down the road. No, 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 no. When you get into a new relationship with a woman, a Western woman in the modern era, I am not talking about if you're dating a Muslim woman in Saudi Arabia. I'm not talking about if this was 1954, because people use these excuses. I'm talking about if you're dating a normal Western woman today in the 21st century, in the 2020s, you keep your big, dumb mouth shut about what the relationship is, what it isn't, what you want. If you want to not see other people, it doesn't matter. You do not define the relationship, which also means if she pushes you for definitions, you gently and nicely and politely blow it off and don't answer those questions for a while. You can't do that forever, but for the first 3 to 5 months, especially if she's under the age of 33, it will work. If she's over the age of 33, it's going to be a little shorter. You get my point. As soon as you start defining the relationship, you sign your own death warrant, and you create all kinds of problems, and you're going to end up in a monogamous relationship. So the best case scenario for you is you'll end up in a relationship that is either monogamous or that she perceives as monogamous. You're still going to date other girls. She'll find out because you're a moron, and then she'll scream her head off, and you'll have drama and problems and all kinds of other things. There is a time and place, so that's the question. Well, Caleb, when do we define the relationship? There is a time and a place. In Alpha Male 2.0, I talk about there's several phases, and one phase is called the implicit phase, and so that lasts 3 to 5 months before you have something called the talk. At some point, yes, you will have a discussion with her about this, and then she can make a decision. But you don't do that just because you start feeling horny or one-itis-y or desperate or you're falling in love even though you just met her 2 weeks ago because you're a big beta puss. You do not define the relationship. You do not say, okay, so what we'll do now is this. And by the way, you don't do it the other direction either. You don't say, you don't read my book, The Unchained Man, or one of my Black Dragon books and say, all right, so this new girl, right? You start seeing her. So you're an FB, and that means friends with benefits, and that means that we cannot go on dates, and we're just going to have sex. No, you don't. If it's a casual relationship, you don't define that either. If it's a casual relationship or a dating relationship, it's not going to be a girlfriend-boyfriend relationship because that takes more time. So it doesn't matter if it's casual, if it's dating, if it's just casual to you, if you think she's the most amazing woman on earth. None of these things matter. You wait several months before you verbalize these conversations. And then you do it under a very specific model that I teach here at Alpha Male 2.0. You don't just say, oh, you want to be my girlfriend? Fucking hell no. That's not monogamy. Or excuse me, that is monogamy. That's not non-monogamy. If you want multiple women, 2, 3, 4 women, long term, you wait as long as you can to define the relationship. Because if you're following my models, by the time you define that relationship, by the time you get around to it, 3 to 5 months in is the sweet spot. Longer if you can do it. Sometimes you can't. That's okay. By the time you get there, you have demonstrated so many behaviors, the cardinal rules, that has raised her attraction so high, she is now very likely to say yes when you finally say to her, look, I'm going to see other girls while I'm seeing you, blah, 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 blah. But if you start right off the bat, because you just had sex once or twice and her boobs are amazing or her blowjobs are great, you're like, oh my God, or she's so smart, or she's a Christian, whatever fucking bullshit one-night excuses you guys have, then you're going to fuck it all up. And again, in the modern era, this is going to be your default setting. Your default setting as a pussified man in the collapsing Western world today is you're going to define the relationship before she does. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Don't do it.